Hey there, it's Lucas here. Wanted to just take a look at the outboard gearing on this, the headstock gearing too on this lathe. This is the South Bend Heavy 10. It's a tool room from 1946. I also want to comment on something about the gearbox. This has got a single tumbler gearbox. Some people see that as a disadvantage, but actually I think it's got an advantage. We'll talk about that. Let's start with the gearing though. So the lathe is really clean, and everything's good on it. I've had some questions as to whether or not the gears are all intact, and the answer is yes. The gears are all intact. They're perfect. There's not a problem with any of the gears here. So this is the bull gear, and that's looking really good. This is a bronze gear, and I'm not certain what that one's called, but that's part of the back gear system. So then this is the additional part of the back gear. So one pulls a pin out of the bull gear here to unlock the spindle from the gear, so you can see that how that works. And then the power transmission goes from the belt here to this gear, through the shaft here, and then here. And then this gear is hooked up directly to the spindle. So that's the way the back gear system works. So let's talk about the actual back part of the gear here, and there it is. So there's no brakes, there's no repairs done on this. It's remarkable for a lathe that's almost 70 years old. Okay, so that's the headstock gearing. Let's take a look now at this stuff, the outboard gearing, okay? So this again looks just phenomenal. There's not a break in any of this. It's just remarkable. So I'm going to put it in gear here so I can actually spin the entire gear train. And none of the gears have any brakes. There's, there are no chips in the teeth. Everything's lubricated. Everything looks great on this. The end of the spindle looks good. This is the thrust bearing adjustment collar, and that looks fine. Both headstock bearings have been adjusted. This, of course, was adjusted at the same time. Everything works great. This is the tumbler for forward and reverse. So now as we turn the spindle, let's turn the spindle forward. As we turn the spindle forward, this bottom gear here, let's see if my hand is visible. No, it is not. As we turn the spindle in the forward direction, this is what will happen. So we get this gearbox gear turning this way, and it's actually turning the lead screw the same direction as the spindle. If we put it up like that, it's now this gear is going the opposite direction of the spindle, and the lead screw is going the opposite direction. And of course we can put it in neutral as well, and there will be no power transmission that way. So everything on this is great. Okay, now we're running the lathe in the forward direction, so everything is turning, the way the work would normally turn. So the cool thing about the Norton gearbox is that one can actually shift it on the fly. Now we can see that the lead screw is turning much faster with the lever to the left. It's much slower now with the gearbox and the lever in the center, and it's slower still with the gearbox to the right. So this is something, that particular lever can be changed while the lathe is running, and indeed while all the gear train is functioning and delivering power to the lead screw. The lead screw then is used primarily for threading, as for power transmission for the traverse and the carriage cross, but also can be used for threading. Of course, we would not want to shift that while we're threading, but perhaps while one is engaged in moving the carriage, this would be a nice thing to be able to adjust. So here's our carriage traverse in one position. Now we can see the carriage traverse is speeded up somewhat. And lastly, even faster. So this is something unique to the single tumbler gearbox. It's not. This is not something one can do with the twin tumbler gearbox. And by the way, I have had questions as to how much noise does the lathe make. That's as loud as it gets. And in fact, if we put the guard on, it would be somewhat quieter just because it's going to dampen some of the acoustic noise. But this lathe is phenomenally quiet. There are straight cut gears all throughout that gear train. Everything in the lathe has a straight cut gear, and so there is gear noise from the gears meshing and releasing contact. So that's what one is hearing now. I'm actually going to shut it off, take it out of gear, and I'm going to run it without the gearbox engaged, and it's barely audible. I mean, this is a tremendously quiet lathe. I did put a knob on the VFD right here, and one can turn the speed up. That's fast, and now we can hear the belt slapping a little bit. And actually, that's above 60 hertz. We're actually super speeding the motor. It's not going to hurt the motor. It won't go up over 80. I set it else 81.4. It won't go up much over 80. So it'll go up about a third of overspeed. And we can dial it down. I have it set at 20, so it won't go any lower than that. So, you know, it goes from 1/3 speed to 30% overspeed. So it's got tremendous range within a flat belt setting. And we can still adjust the flat belt settings right here by using the flat belt system. And the belt release. So I'm going to move this down to a smaller pulley on the bottom. It's the best way to do it as far as I can tell. One holds the belt up like this, closes the door, engages the lever, and that's the slowest speed. That's the slowest speed on the 3 selections of flat belt interface from one belt to the next. Now, we can also adjust this by using the VFD. So I'm hoping we can see the belt here, and we can see the speed up here. So tremendously versatile having the VFD and the flat belt. In fact, I think I've mentioned this in several of my videos, that this is my favorite combination. The flat belts for simplicity, and the VFD for speed control to a fine degree. So simplicity and course changes in speed with the flat belt, you know, electronic speed control and infinitely variable, or pretty much so with the VFD. On the compound, and in fact they go back into here too, but nothing that's going to cause the machine to have any kind of issues. So yes, there's some dinging. Somebody ran it into the chuck at one point, but really it's pretty minor, and there's no breaks in the compound. Everything looks great. It's just that they ran it into the chuck a couple of times here. Full guard. The full guard for the headstock side, for the outboard side of the headstock. All the labels are great. All the little oil labels on it look fine. Everything's all in one piece. It's all clean. It all looks fantastic. So let's get a number, just the view of the catalog number 8187AN. 8187AN. 4-foot bed, 10L lathe, 1946. Alright, so it's a little hard to juggle all this. I've got a flashlight here. I'm trying to get a picture here of the gearing, but I'm going to turn this on so you can see the gears. So this is the gearbox, and just to show, there are no brakes in any of these gears. And by the way, this hasn't been cleaned at all. This thing was almost spotless when I got it. So just you know, further indication that that this lathe has seen very little use, which has been my contention in all my videos, etc. on this. So that's the kind of condition the gearbox is in. I just can't believe it. It's so phenomenal. So let's get a picture. I'm going to pull away now. So you can see, I'm really not fooling you. We checked all the gears in the headstock. We checked the gears on the outboard side, checked the gears on the transmission, the Norton single-tumbler gearbox, and we've looked at the gears in the apron. Everything on this lathe is ready to go. No breaks, no damage, no abuse, with the exception of a little bit of dinging on the compound. Point something out here. I've got this. It's a Mitutoyo multi-anvil micrometer, and actually this is a nice system to use for measuring threads. So I use it to measure the threads on the lead screw here at 2 different points. So one of them here where actually I think I was a little bit over, which is about the place where most of the threading is going to go on. And I came up with 0.732. 0.732. Well, I got to look at my loop here. 0.7321, right in here. Okay. Down on this end, I'm gonna lock it. Okay, 0.7327. So 0.7327. So there's 0.7, and then there are 7 divisions here. So one division there, 7 divisions there. So that's 0.025, and then 7 added to that is 0.732, and then I'm coming up with on the vernier 7/10. So there's very little difference. There's, you know, within a 1/10 of a thousandth the diameter from here down to right in here where most of the threading would go on. So the half nuts are like right in line right here with this, right under here, in fact. So you know, I measured the area where most of the threading is going to go on, and boy, there's almost no lead screw wear. So another clear indication that this lathe has had very little use. Hey, this is Lucas with this 1946 lathe. It's a South Bend 10L, almost perfect. I mean, it's 68 years old, and yet it's had very little use, and it's just in great shape, ready to go to work. Put it to use, it'll last another 50, 60 years. This is Lucas, signing off.